Good morning, everybody. My name is Dave Finale, and this is Real Estate Talk TGIF, episode 359. That's 353 weeks in a row, and an extra episode yesterday with the great Mike Michalowicz of Profit First and a lot of other books. And today, I am really honored to have this guy on. I mean, I've tried to reach out to him for years. We've known of each other. I've known of him really basically through a mutual friend, a coach that I worked with over the years, and Justin's worked with him. We're good friends with John Cheplack, and I am so happy to have you here, Justin. I mean, you're just I look up to you, and I really love watching what you're doing, being the number one team in EXP in Canada. Before that, with a legacy brokerage, Remax in Canada. Thanks so much for joining us today, man.
Good morning, Dave, and thank you for having me on here. Truly an honor, and again, congratulations on you pouring into the community of episode 359. That's again a huge accomplishment there as well. Again, providing value to the industry. So thank you for doing what you do.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. We're going to get started with knowing what you do and how you do it. But first, hit the video, Nelson. We know all real estate agents want to acquire clients consistently so that they can grow their business and income for that great lifestyle. This broadcast brings you the best and top people in the industry to support that quest. This is Dave Finale, and I'm here to bring you the Real Estate Skill Builder broadcast, Real Estate Talk TGIF, brought to you by Real Estate Skill Builder and Align, your premier real estate solution. Welcome, everybody, again. This is Real Estate Talk TGIF, and we have Justin Havre, who's the Justin Havre team from Calgary, Canada. And Justin, before we get started, there's one important question I have to ask that I ask everybody that joins this broadcast, and 90% of them get it wrong. Here's the question. What does TGIF stand for?
Thank God it's Friday.
You're so close, man. I mean, you know what? That would be the thought process, but actually it's thank God it's finale. That's all I can tell you, man. It works. I didn't set it up that way. It just happened, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, man, you've been in the business about 20 years, I guess, I think, right? And you've had a journey. I mean, it wasn't all roses and unicorns. Talk to me about your journey, your business. But first, I want to read a little bit about you. Sorry about that. Already been a long day. Justin is the team lead for Justin Havre real estate team of eXp Realty. Justin, top ranked team at eXp Realty, recognized as Canada's number one eXp team in 24 in both units and volume. That says a lot, man. Over 20 years of experience in Calgary real estate, Justin's known for strategic sales expertise, digital marketing leadership, and commitment to service excellence. He's a visionary behind calgaryhomes.ca and calgary.com. Since 2005, Justin's built a high-performing team of over 70 professionals, emphasizing collaboration, client first, and results. Hey, man, you've earned the global recognition in 23 as the number one eXp team worldwide for units sold. You lead with integrity, innovation, and always setting new industry standards. I read about you, but I want to know about you, right? So tell me your journey, man. Like I said, it starts somewhere, and everybody's got ups and downs. Talk to me.
Oh, I think we all have a journey, and we all have, again, a lot of stories to tell about, getting into this industry. About 20 years ago in February was when I got licensed. And, again, back in those days, we would sit in a classroom to get a real estate license while we took the course. And, I never thought of myself as a salesperson. I never thought of myself as, again, real estate was something that I wanted to do. Someone asked me if I wanted to take the course, and I'm like, maybe. And then I decided to, take it. And I came from a background of, working in the internet industry, where I was installing high-speed internet in the early or late 90s, early 2000s, also installing high-speed internet with direct-way satellite dishes before Starlink came along, like long before Starlink, right? So
Right.
When I was, again, getting my license, our teacher at the time, he said, look around this room, and in 2 years' time, there's going to be two of you left in this business. And, I think every single person that gets into real estate, here's the stat, 87% of agents fail in their first 5 years.
Yep.
It's not as easy as it's seen on TV, especially nowadays with all the reality TV shows and all that stuff. But one of the things that I knew is that I knew that in order to survive in sales, you need to have leads, you need to have opportunities. So I went directly into investing and building websites. I built my very first website, justlistedcalgary.ca. And the thing that I haven't really shared about that website is back then we had HGTV, obviously here in Canada as well, and they were promoting a website called justlisted.ca. Sorry. So they had commercials for this website. It was more of a national portal, and I benefited from that because people were like, "Yeah, we saw your commercial on TV," and I'm like, "Well, it was just a spin off of that name." But I advertised that website in the back of a newspaper. Actually, yesterday I was unpacking some boxes because I just moved into a new house here in the last several months, and I found basically an old binder that I used to do for listing presentations. And in there was a line that part of my maximum marketing plan was that I will advertise justlistedcalgary.ca in the back of the local newspaper. So that was the good old pay per click, I guess, back in the day.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
and I was generating 100,000 hits a month on that website
Holy shit.
fairly early on in my career. But I knew that, again, in order to generate leads, you needed to obviously put yourself out there and reinvest back into the business. From the very beginning, I always reinvested minimum 25% back into the business. And I invested that back into developing the website, search engine optimization, again, trying to manipulate the website so it would rank high into Google. And when you're at the top in the search results of Google, you get traffic. When you get
Yep.
traffic, you get leads.
Yeah. It sounds easy, right?
Well, I think that there's one thing that many agents are afraid of, or maybe they don't have the resources to do so, is, when they earn that commission check, invest a portion of that back into the business. And that has been fundamental to my success. And obviously, I've been pouring that into the online world because I looked at that, you know, newspapers. I mean, as we know today, very few buyers find their home through print media,
Right.
and less than 1% find them through the media. And the stat is now that 100% of home buyers use the internet during their home search for that next home. So this is, again, years and years of investing into search engine optimization. I happened to just what I did was I was just handing out referrals of these leads to agents in the office where I started out my career. And I was very fortunate that my realtor, prior to me getting licensed, kind of took me under his wings and showed me the ropes, brought me into his, brokerage, which was, the largest independent brokerage here in Canada at the time. And, the business kind of grew from referrals, and, went through some personal hardship. Again, domestic restructuring is what we would call it. Had some good
Ah,
value.
I've been there too.
Yeah, had some good valuable lessons, in all of that. I mean, again, when you start out in this career, I think it's very easy for all of us to really like go full throttle. And, clearly being a workaholic and, again, sitting there for anniversary dinner. There's one instance, still remember it, where, a friend called me and it's like, hey, this property just came on the market, and the market was incredibly, low inventory at the time. Things were moving fast. Called just as I was entering into anniversary dinner, and I asked if we could cut it short so I could write an offer. And I worked on that till 1 a.m. So you can only imagine how that goes, although I had permission. But these things can have an impact on our relationships. And, again, one of the things that I share with anyone that is getting into the industry, the number one appointment in this thing here should be your family, should be your significant other, your kids. Those are your VIPs. And, again, if you have clients that are demanding and want an appointment during that, football game, baseball game, practice, anniversary dinner, you're booked. right?
I love that you say that, and a lot of times we don't talk about it enough. We don't push it enough. One of the things that I'm able to do with the agents I work with is I do it. Matter of fact, every Friday morning I do a planning and preps session for the Align team. And one of the things that I talk about is, look, let's make sure that you got your schedule correct. You're doing your lead gen, you're doing your follow up, etc. But let's understand your number one thing that you start your schedule with is family. Who's got to go where? What's got to do? Do you have a doctor's appointment? Do you have this stuff? Do you have an anniversary dinner? Whatever it is, that's number one on your list. And one of
100%.
the things I try to tell, because people get anxious about it, right? They have anxiety about their schedule. So shit, oh man, I gotta go take her to somewhere and whatever. And what I say is, look, the night before, spend 5 minutes. You've got things you've got to do with family. Make sure that your schedule is around that, right? So it's something that's really near and dear to my heart. I've been able to help a lot of people with anxiety around their schedule
Yeah.
because it should not exist. This way, we get to do the things that we love to do, such as what we're talking about, real estate.
Well, again, the beautiful part about this industry is that it allows you flexibility with your schedule, but that is only if you allow it to be flexible in and around your commitments. And I think it's, again, if you want to have any kind of success in this industry, you actually got to have discipline around your calendar and around your schedule. Because again, there are certain times when, again, you have to be fully committed to obviously your family, and
Right.
without family, who are you going to share your success with? Again, part of my journey there was, I went through domestic restructuring in 2009. And, I was also recognized as the number one agent in the independent brokerage at that time as well. And,
Mhm.
when I got those news, I sat there on a couch in a big empty house with not a lot of furniture left, and I cried. And I thought to myself, I'm like, oh, this is what success is.
Right.
You strive, and again, it's something that happens to many in the industry. We think that, again, when we hit a certain level of success, it's going to change how we feel inside. It's going to change our life. Sure, it can change our life by giving us the opportunity to create experiences and allow us to, again, have the benefits of the things that we can accomplish with our success. But it doesn't change who you are as a person, in my opinion. And, again, that was a moment where, I sat there and I'm like, okay, well, the only thing I have left is my career. And I went all into my career. I probably used that as therapy, probably not the best,
Yeah.
but it's what I did. And, I went 5 years without a 1 week vacation. And, people in the brokerage at that time, they were looking up to me and what I was accomplishing. And, they said, oh, you must be so happy because, you're so successful. And inside I was crying every day. And, you touched on John Sheplack, and I'll get to that here in a little bit in the journey as well. But in 2012, I ended up going to a real estate conference down in Miami. And the guy that was doing my search engine optimization at the time was like, hey, you got to meet this other client of mine, Gary Ashton. So he kind of connected us where we met for breakfast down there, and we just kind of hit it off, started talking shop. And, we were sitting around at this table in this little Cuban restaurant down in Miami. And we're kind of going around the table, introducing ourselves and, how many leads, what do you do for lead gen? How many leads you generate? And it came to me and I'm like, yeah, I generated about 150 leads a day organically. It's myself and 4 other agents. And they all just kind of looked at me and like, 4 agents, 150 leads a day. And Gary Ashton, who many of you know, the team leader of the number one Remax team in the world, he just kind of pounded his hand in the table and said, you know what, Justin, you need 100 agents, not 4. And I'm
Right.
like, what are you talking about? I didn't kind of grasp that concept at the time. And,
Right.
again, he's been an incredible mentor to me over the years and friend, turn on the light bulb and for me to kind of see the big picture. And then I went from, 5 agents in December of 2012 to 28 agents in January with 1 assistant, no systems. I would manually assign like
Oof.
I would assign 55 leads to one agent at 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning. And I'd be like, hey, Christine, I know that you got a busy day with showings and open houses. I just put 55 leads in your hopper. Call them when you can.
I
I
love your lead management system.
Yeah, you know what? It was a little bit of a mess, but again, it was like we recognized that we needed people, and the systems kind of grew after that. It was kind of build it as you fly kind of a thing. It wasn't necessarily the best,
Right.
however,
Right.
there was a lot of lessons in that, and then in 2014 we decided to move the team over to Remax, and we were with Remax for just about 9 years. Again,
Hmm.
many great people there,
Right.
great organization, but it also came to a point now where again I recognize that the world is changing and the way that we do business is changing, and I was looking at like what is the next step for the team. Is it to go independent, start my own brokerage? So I kind of went down the path of all of that.
Did you did you think once if you thought about opening your own brokerage, did you think that was a crazy thing?
I really looked at the liability and all the additional
Right.
things you have to do as a broker owner, and I looked at even when I was with the independent brokerage prior to that,
Right.
again, 700-800 agent brokerage, and we had some conversations about what it could look like to get into a partnership. At one point it was very surface level, but then I got to learn, again, what they profited per agent per year. And I was like, I'd rather just hand off a lead and collect more than
Hmm.
sit and manage an agent for 12 months in a brokerage and make less. So that's where my mind went immediately.
Right.
And, even, you kind of look at, here in Canada, for instance, I mean, there's not a big market for people buying or acquiring brokerages.
Hmm.
90 plus percent of broker owners are selling real estate to help finance the business.
Right.
Um, that
Yep.
doesn't seem like a good business model for myself. Clearly, there are some operators that are very successful at it
Yes.
and can make a
Yes.
profit, but majority of brokerages struggle financially, and especially in an environment where there's a 100% commission models, and it's almost like a race to the bottom because they're all trying to undercut each other to have the best value in the marketplace, and then they don't have the resources to provide the value and the tools to the agents to attract them.
Yeah, you use the phrase "race to the bottom," and that's something we see an awful lot of. And I look, I've got a lot of friends still in those types of brokerages that I just wonder sometimes. And you know what? For you making the move the way you did, and how I did it, I was a broker owner and realized that it just was not working, and I screwed it up enough where I couldn't go back, so I had to go away. Right. I admit that I didn't do some of the right things. I didn't do what I was taught. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And here I am, working with this other type of organization where, hey, you know what? I can really do what I should have done and grow, which I've started to do and done really well at. And you wonder, what it's all about. Because when we look at legacy brokerages, you said 87% of new agents don't survive, right? In a number of years. But it's also when we look at the structure of what we've got to work with and how we have to do it, we would rather, and you would rather collaborate and help someone grow than have to say, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this. And the difference between what you're doing is you're working with quality and the others are working with quantity, right? Looking at, for me, it was great to have 70 agents and 50 of them doing maybe one or two deals a year, where I thought they didn't cost me anything, but they really did,
Oh yeah.
right? And then we move over. So how was it for you in a transition from one style to the other?
I mean, going back, I mean, I was never interested in moving. I was never interested in EXP. I mean, I probably had over 300 different pitches of people trying to, invite me
Sure.
over, so to speak. And I would say a lot of those invitations were done the wrong way because I clearly didn't find it attractive. And at the same time, it was my ego. My ego
Right.
did not allow me to look at it without judgment. And, again, the conversations within, the so-called bricks and mortar brokerages,
Hmm.
is that, oh, EXP is a pyramid scheme. It's, an MLM, it's this, it's that. And again, it was actually a friend of mine who was, running the number one team at KW here in Canada. He was looking at making a move out of KW. He just
Right.
figured it was time. And I was like, just come over to Remax. I can get you set up with a franchise or a sub brokerage with some of my friends. And, we started kind of looking at the number, and he was curious. He's like, okay, tell me how, tell me what that looks like. And let's look at the numbers, and, it's got to make financial sense, obviously. Right. And then we started looking at EXP together, and I'm like, shoot, this is pretty enticing. This is pretty good. And so that's where like my light bulb went off, and I saw it, and I was like, oh shit, I got to eat my shoe here. Right. And and again, like even with the previous franchise brand that I was with, I was trying to advocate for them to also change and adapt to the current times as well.
Sure.
Again, it's a franchise model that is, really big on branding and brand. It's a franchise brand. It's not a individual brokerage brand
Right.
per se
Right.
or a personal brand. And we
Right.
all know that in this business, it's all about personal brand. Again, it's about building that connection either with the community or with the consumer or the clients, to have that relationship that instills trust in the marketplace so that, people will come to you and do business with you.
Yeah.
Um, we decided to kind of make the move. And like, I also asked a lot of my agents, again, do you see any value in where we were? And at the time, many of them said, no, the value is all in the team. And then I asked, hey, well, when you meet with clients, do they move forward with you because we're with that franchise model, franchise name, or because of the team name? And they're all like, it's all the team. Some of them don't even know we're with that franchise.
Right.
So, again, that, and I would ask them if would they think that they could benefit if we were at any other different model or different brokerage. And some of them had already, kind of explored these other brokerage models and, asked why aren't we there? And, I looked at it, for the average agent on our team, for us making the switch, they would save approximately $5,000 a year in brokerage fees. They would stop having a, $1,000 a month payment, whether they sold or they didn't sell, or if they went on maternity leave, they still had that $1,000 a month payment. And I had agents that would call me crying that they had to leave the brokerage because,
Didn't have
again,
money.
they couldn't afford their bill due to the fact that, again, going on mat leave. So, and I couldn't say much at the time. I'm like,
Right.
I wish you could just hang on, because I knew that, again, there was a transition in the works. And
Right.
yeah, we came over here beginning of November 2023.
So what's really interesting is there's a couple of places that I wanted to talk about through watching some of your content and stuff, and one of them has to do with your people, right? And it's a point that Mike McCallowicz makes in one of his books. It's you understanding the potential of each team member and crafting a formula to nurture their talents, and that goes with not only the business of real estate, but it also goes with the personality of real estate and how you built your team. So, I mean, and why am I talking about this? Because it's really important, because the personal level that you put in to your team and what you pour into your team is, I believe that you're always worrying about them and worrying about, do I have the right solution for them? Do I have the right solution for them to grow their business? And the the nurturing of a relationship is like the baseline, the bottom line, the footing, the foundation of our business to start. and then you've grown a business that way from start to where you are now. Tell me how that works into your business on the whole.
Well, I think that, again, you have to kind of look at this as a business, right? Sure. I mean, when you first start a team, it feels really nice. We're a family and all that kind of stuff. Um, and that might work for some time, but then as your business grows and you start to see that, hey, you know what, even when you run a team, you have expenses. If you have agents who don't take advantage of the coaching, training, the systems, the branding, the presentations, the opportunities that a team or a team leader provides to the agents. And again, it's all about cost of opportunity. You want to
Right.
make sure that you capitalize for the mutual benefit of the business relationship. That again, as a team leader, always value the time, talent, and treasures of every single partner in the team. And again, it's also to help develop them personally and professionally, because I believe that the root of having business success is doing personal development. They're really intertwined, as we both know. And it's getting them to kind of buy into the vision of that team leader, of being like, hey, you know what, like, if we collaborate together, because no one is bigger than the whole, including myself on our team, like, we all serve our part to
Right.
ensure that we take advantage of all the opportunities and give that white glove 5-star experience for our clients. And again, you mentioned John Sheplak. I started working with him here over 9 years ago. And it's been fascinating to even watch his journey and his growth in the industry
Yeah.
as well. Again, he deserves all the credit, because, again, as we have been riding alongside him, we've seen the work that he puts in. And, he has instilled a lot of, his messaging, his belief and again, principles into our organization, into myself, into my partner Carmen. Where again, it is about really pouring into the people. It's about giving them the best opportunities, the best system. And as a team leader, you always want them to succeed. And sometimes they have to borrow your belief that they can do it. And I say, as a team leader, there's nothing more rewarding than to see, again, let's say a solo agent in the marketplace struggled for many years, didn't even make ends meet. You get them into your environment and they jump all in with both feet. They show up to all the training, they buy into the systems, they follow the process when it comes to the lead conversion playbook, and they have that fire in the belly to do the work. And then they get results that changes the trajectory of their life. That, to me, is
There's
success
nothing better.
today.
There's nothing better than that.
Right. And you just see how it, like, you basically see them spread their wings.
Yeah.
And that is something that I love watching. And I love, again, having developed with, again, the leadership team that we have, an incredible training platform for agents. If anybody wants to look at agentdevelopment.com, it's also in partnership with my partner Carmen and John Sheplak. And even, like, this is something that, we've had a really good training program all along. And then here in the last year and a bit, we reshaped it with, Carmen acting as the chief learning officer. And again, she comes from educational background,
Right.
and it's seeing even how fast agents build their skills. And we even had some people with, or this one individual with a speech impediment, always nervous in public speaking. And
Right.
he came to us and said, like, hey, like, even going through this training program, he goes, it helped my confidence when I speak in my personal life. And like a small thing, but maybe a big thing to this person, right? And this is the kind of thing that we get to do as leaders, as team leaders. We get to pour into our people.
So
And
when you talk about the development, it's personal development. It's the personal growth that we see, Because let's face it, I mean, this business, you hear it so many times. It's all about relationships. It's relationship building. It's this, that, and the other thing is it's, you know what? It's like I listened to, I remember hearing, I think it was Greg Harrelson that said, you know, can you just be nice to somebody today? You know, can you just go out there and be nice to someone? I can't think of his name. It wasn't him. It was someone in Georgia. I'm looking right at him. Also, a client of John Cheplak's at one time. Um, Mike is his name. But anyway, I digress. The point is that being nice and helping people and being with people, it's going to allow them to develop and to also accept and adopt the systems and processes that you're putting in as a team leader. And I know that's one thing that you worry about all the time. And one of the things that is so important for someone to develop is to actually adopt things that might be uncomfortable. Talk to me about the systems and processes that you instill into, that you implement into the business in hopes that the agents adopt.
Well, I mean, it's to do any sort of personal growth is always uncomfortable, especially if you are putting in an environment where you're tested prior to actually applying it to your clients. I think as an industry, there's a lot of agents that practice on their clients and just kind of wing it. When there is a 5, 10, 15, $20,000 commission check sitting on the kitchen table, and they just go there and like, oh, I'm just going to wing this. Again, what Carmen developed for our team is, again, she comes from a performance background, and she is international award-winning pianist. So even when you transferring some of that, again, the mindset of a real estate agent is like when we meet with a buyer or a seller, we are doing a performance. It would be like a professional athlete stepping on the field or onto the ice. Right? They have to perform and they have to do all the prep. They have to know all the plays, and they have to obviously be in top shape and top condition, being prepared for showtime. Right. And this is, again, no different than what we have to do in our industry. When we go into that appointment, we have to be fully prepared. And, again, we recreate this with a lot of role play and a lot of presentations that they have to do in front of their peers to, again, build skills. And they build skills at a much faster pace when you apply that pressure to them in a safe classroom environment. And, again, I think it's, as a team leader, you're always looking at the business. You can always, at least for myself, again, I can always find areas for improvement, because, again, I can look at, is there a thing that I can improve in the system? Is there a process that I can add or improve to ensure that there's a better client experience? Mm-hmm. Is there something I can do to ensure that, again, speed to lead is quicker? And then is there something I can implement in order to increase the conversion of each opportunity that comes in? And, we're in an industry now, or in a world now where obviously after the pandemic where, these things here became quite normal. However, yes, so right, many agents resist using camera. Hey, every one of us probably has a little bit of a conversation inside our head about some sort of negativity in and around video. We don't like how we look. We don't like how we sound. and all of those things. But if you add video to your business, it will actually increase your conversion by 70%. But the key is you got to do it consistently, right? Like anything else, you got to take the reps. The more reps you take, the better you do get, as long as you learn it the right way. And, I think it's an interesting time that we're in right now, because there's a lot of new shiny objects. And again, we all went through the COVID market, and I think the COVID market didn't do anyone any favors.
No, it didn't.
It masked a lot of bad behavior, so to speak, when it comes to business. Again, many agents were door openers, to be frank, didn't have to do any nurturing or any building of any relationships. Right.
That's right.
And, again, we can also thank, some of the technology companies out there like Amazon and Starbucks. You can, if you want anything, you can basically pick up your phone. You can have it delivered to your door
That's right.
in no time. And I think that, again, I think the stat in the US is that 70% of agents didn't sell a single home last year.
Yeah, 71. Yeah.
71. Okay. Why is that? It's not the market.
No, no, it's the individual.
Sure, there's less transactions, but here's one of the things that, again, why do 87% of agents fail? They fail because they don't treat it like a business, they don't treat it like a job, and they don't put in the time, in my opinion.
Right. Right.
Again, like if you want to have any sort of success, and here in Calgary, like from 2015 to end of 2021, we operated in the worst economy in Canada. Yet, consistently, we were able to be the top team in Canada in that franchise model.
Wow.
Why is that? We put in the work. We worked incredibly hard. We knew that, again, with activity, we create the action economy. And I think that if any agent that is listening to this, again, you want to talk about personal development, well, the hardest thing to do is to look in the mirror and take personal responsibility for where your business is today. But then also inspect what got you to where you are today. And then everybody has that choice. Everybody has that choice each and every day of what activities are you committing to doing today in order to move your business forward. And, I was just speaking at EXPCon here in Canada, and whether you're an agent on the team or if you are a solo agent, if you have no appointments today, you should be putting, in my opinion, 3 90-minute sessions in your calendar, because if it's not in your calendar, it's likely
Doesn't
not going to
happen.
happen.
Right.
And you spend those 90 minutes and you prospect. You probably have some contacts in your phone. You probably have a CRM. Call them, connect, call them, check in. There's a pretty crazy time in the world right now. See how people are feeling. Humanize yourself. Send videos. Lean into your database. If they don't answer in the morning, make a note of that in your CRM. Call them in the afternoon. If they don't answer in the afternoon, call them in the evening. Dave answered in the evening. I'm going to make note and collect that data in my CRM. So now I know that the best time to call Dave is likely in the evenings. Now, when you start getting appointments, you cut down from, maybe you don't do 3 90-minute sessions. And again, 3 90-minute sessions in a day is only 4.5 hours of work. Right?
Yeah.
But you always keep one 90-minute session in your calendar for prospecting and nurturing your future business. The thing that I see that agents do, and again, when I sat down with Gary in 2012, he gave me a good analogy. He said you need 100 agents with that lead volume. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't have enough leads for 100 agents. He goes, no. 1/3 of your agents are going to be busy with the clients that they're already working with. They don't have the capacity to take on any new leads to call and nurture them. So they're going to be working on what they have on their plate. The other third is going to be able to take on new business. And then the other third, they're out there taking some time off, enjoying, the fruits of their labor. And that analogy, even now, over 10 years later, it's pretty accurate to see on a team. And it's, again, running a team and being in this industry is like sitting in a classroom of human behavior.
Mm-hmm.
It's fascinating, right?
Mm-hmm.
We get to see the people that we know that have the hunger and the desire. They may not necessarily have the skill yet, but that they will just push, and they're going to achieve whatever they're going to achieve because they're just putting in and pushing forward. And then you have the people that perhaps don't have the will, but they have the skill. So how do you motivate those people? When I got my very first sales seminar that I signed up to, it was like a 6-week course. And the guy said, how many of you guys are newly licensed? And a bunch of us put our hands up. He goes, congratulations. Now go buy yourself a new car today. We're like,
Huh?
we can't afford to buy a new car. And he's like, well, now you have pressure. You have a financial obligation for a car payment. And that's, we got to figure out how do we create that pressure. And perhaps that is, again, something that's going to move us into taking action if you have the skill. But then as
Hmm.
a team leader, it's your obligation to find those gaps within your agents. Why it's incredibly important to track everything in the CRM so you can find the opportunities to coach your agents and team partners forward so that they can do more business and perhaps convert more with less.
So, man, this was just a masterclass on humanizing the business and putting everything together and what you had to do. Thank you for that. And there's so many things going around in my head. I don't even know where to go with it. But I just want to, we you talked about the pandemic and what it did to our business. A lot of people are door openers. I like to call them doormen. And it happened there, right? And I remember it was probably right before the pandemic. I had Tom Ferry on as a guest, and I said, Zillow was a game changer for this business. Zillow was a big market interrupter, right? It was a big business interrupter for us. And I said, what do you think the next interrupter is going to be? At that time, he said, well, really, there's really nothing out there because I see every system. It's just going to be the people, right? And now, thinking about it, it was the people and the way they reacted to life and the way they reacted to the business. Today, it's like, I think the reason that less people did business last year is I think more and more people were looking to use or find that silver bullet, that magic pill. And why do I say that? ChatGPT. It's a great product. It's a great thing. It's a great tool, right? But when people say they want other people to do things for them, that's where we lost. That's where they lost. Would you agree with that, Justin?
100%. I mean, again, like we're in a world right now where people are actually going to start valuing real human to human interaction more than
Yeah,
anything else. Like we
yeah.
had somebody that one of our team members called and they're like, how do I know you're real? Can you call me back? And then
Holy
we would
shit!
hang up,
Right.
call back. Okay, now call back again because I don't know if you're real or not. And then call back on the third time. Then they connected. So if that's what we're starting to see right now, just
It
imagine what
is.
this is going to look like if it continues on. And
It,
and I
it,
think like all the AI and how it's evolving, okay, it's amazing, but it's not going to replace you. It's going to actually enhance your ability to be more efficient and be more productive. It is not going to replace your efforts. You have to, again, amplify your efforts now. And again, in a changing economy, you can create your own action economy by actually leaning into the business. Because I know this, I haven't been in this business now for 20 years, and you can speak to this as well. There are people that are still successful and people that have their best year ever in a down market or a
yeah,
down economy. It
yeah,
is not because of the market, it is because they chose not to pay attention to what the news headlines are, and they
right.
chose to lean into the business with action and activities and connecting with people. If you commit to having minimum 10 conversations a day, heck, if you commit to having 20 conversations a day with people in your CRM, you are going to be rolling in the money at the end of the year. But if you
Yeah.
don't have any conversations, you're not going to be doing any business, and the AI is not going to do that for you. You
No.
still need to connect. So I think as an industry, and again, I think, again, with the stats that 71% of agents didn't sell a home last year, take action.
Mhm.
Don't be part of that 71%. Be part of the people that are doing the business. And 2025 is a year of opportunity for those who want to take it.
Yeah, there's so much that we can talk about, and I just when we talk about AI and we talk about all that stuff, I want people to understand that everything. When I mentioned the Tom Ferry story about the innovation and what's going to be the next market interrupter, the business interrupter, and I talked about ChatGPT, I brought that up. You just hit on that. Everyone is always worried that we were going to be replaced. The real estate agent was going to be replaced. And that's what Zillow wanted to do. And that's what the internet, the World Wide Web was going to do. And I'm here to tell you once and for all, please believe me, that that's bullshit. We're not going anywhere. The human, the face to face, the conversation, the voice to voice. And the funny thing is, you say, you got to say, like, call me back. I want to make sure you're real, right?
Yes.
Oh man, that's so true. I mean, I'm saying, oh shit, you know what? I know systems that work, and they're trying to make sure that you sound and react properly. I tested a product at EXPCon in Miami, and it was wild, man. But man, you know what? I mean, we're running up on time here. You got an appointment. I've got stuff to do. We've got all stuff going on, and this has been a great conversation with you, Justin. I want to thank you for that. If there's one or two things that you would say to either the solo agent, the team leader, or whatever, to help them grow, what would it be, Justin?
I think, again, do a check-in with yourself and have an honest conversation with yourself and ask yourself, how committed are you to your business? How committed are you to providing for your family? Being in this business, there's no better industry to be a part of to create experiences and opportunities for your family and your future than being in this industry. We all have a choice each and every day. What activities do you want to take? And I would say that, if your business is not where it is today, where you wanted it to be, look at your calendar, commit to setting in some dedicated spots in your calendar and live by your calendar and prospect and nurture your business. And, again, if you look back at your year, December 31st, 2025, the action economy. And now if you have it in your calendar, it's more likely to happen, but commit to that. Take that, create that action economy. Don't watch the news headlines, and just connect with people. Be you.
Exactly. Don't watch the news. Screw the news. I haven't watched the news in years. I don't even know what's going on half the time, to be honest with you. Justin, your contact information is on the screen. If anyone wants to reach out, he's got his Instagram, his email address, and his website. His website's fantastic. Just go there. And if you want to learn about how to build a website, that's probably the one to look at. It's agentdevelopment.com. Is that what it is?
Agent development, that one talks about our training program, but
Right.
justinhavre.com is, my main website. I also, like
Okay.
you mentioned earlier, calgary.com. I figured, the rule number one in real estate is location. So I transfer that into the digital world. So if I wanted to have a website for Calgary, calgary.com.
Awesome. So anyway, I got two more things and we'll be done. And thank you so much again. First question, most important question. My last question really is, how do I help you grow your business?
Just keep doing what you're doing, my friend. And again, thank you for having me on here, and truly an honor. And we should probably do this more, because this went by really fast, and there's so much more that we could talk about.
Absolutely. Hey, man, thank you so much. And of course, the blue hat's coming your way. I want to thank you for being on. Next week, we've got Mike Costigan, who is the CEO and founder of Agent on Fire Programs, Millionaire Agent Academy. He's going to come on. Mike's a great guy. He's got a different way to look at stuff. He's going to be on here as a coach. And I want to thank you, Justin, for coming on. Just stay on for a quick minute as we end it. Thanks so much, everybody. Nelson, hit the video.